Welcome in, everybody, to the 423 Football Podcast. We are back again. This time, have a fresh and new episode all about bounce-back players for 2018. So before we get into that, we're just going to talk a little bit of news. As always, I'm your host, Brandon Bouchard, with Brett Hamilton.
Yellow.
So a little bit of news before we jump into our bounce-back players. DeMarco Murray has announced his retirement from football. Didn't really see that coming. I thought he had a lot more to give. I thought he could really, really help a team that was in need of a running back, maybe the Colts or something like that.
I definitely wasn't expecting that retirement.
No, definitely not at all. I thought he still had a lot to give to the NFL, and
well, that also came out like 5 days after the news. Air quotes, came out that he'd been talking to like 5 or 6 teams or something like that. And I was like, well, I guess he didn't like any of those teams.
I guess not. They probably wanted him to come in and just be a backup.
Yeah, sign him for depth, and I don't think that's how he wants to
retire. Because I feel like
I don't blame him. No one wants to retire like that.
Yeah, he kind of got pushed out of Tennessee. Yeah. And because, his first year there was amazing. Second year there, Derrick Henry really got into the mix. And, rightfully so. They were moving towards him anyway, but DeMarco Murray, I don't think he's a guy who wanted to be that complimentary back. He wanted to be the guy.
Right.
And that might have pushed him towards retirement.
Yeah.
LaShawn McCoy, his availability is in jeopardy after reports of alleged domestic violence, child abuse, and animal abuse came forward. And again, these are just allegations right now, but it's not looking good for old LaShawn McCoy right now.
No, as we've seen many times, even if charges are dropped, you can still be suspended, and that's going to tank his fantasy value. And then, of course, if he is guilty of all those things, then he's done. But
honestly, if I was going to make a do not draft list right now, LaShawn McCoy would be number one on that list.
Yeah, and it was a real shame because I actually liked where he was going in drafts. I like his ADP value before that. I was down on McCoy before this just because I think the Bills are very bad. I think they lost a ton of offensive linemen. McCoy's not getting any younger. He's getting older.
And now Chris Ivory, I guess, is the guy if McCoy was to be suspended. Not very flattering there.
Would be a good spot for DeMarco Murray, actually.
Yeah, it would be. Ivory, I like Chris Ivory, but again, I just don't like the Bills.
Right.
I don't like the line. I don't. It's not someone. It's not like
situation's icky.
No, it's not like if they said LaShawn McCoy was suspended for the entire year tomorrow that I'm going to go and draft Chris Ivory in the top 5 rounds. I'm just not going to do that.
No,
not at all.
I'm not taking a bet on any of those guys.
No, not really news, but just like some OTA hype going on right now. Just maybe thought I'd discuss a little bit of it. Corey Davis is he's a star in spring practice. We kind of got a glimpse of what he really could do because he had a very, very slow rookie season.
Yeah.
We saw a glimpse of what he can.
He had a lot of high expectations, which didn't help either.
Yeah. His playoff performances were fantastic. We really got to see what he could elevate to being that top 5 pick that he was drafted at. So Corey Davis, this is definitely great news. He's only rising in my draft boards. I think he's going to have a very big year.
Yeah, if you think, or if you're on the side of the fence that thinks the Titans are going to have a much better year than last year, then you have to bump up Corey Davis, especially with the news that he is performing well. Because we always thought that coming into the draft last year, he was one of the most talented wide receivers, and I liked where he was going. Marcus Mariota has struggled last year. If he improves and that whole team gets better, like I think they will, then Corey Davis, he's going to keep shooting up the charts for me until draft time.
Absolutely. Quincy Enunwa, expected to be a major weapon on the Jets. Obviously, Robbie Anderson is still there. I don't believe he's going to be suspended. Sam Darnold, the new guy in town, obviously going to be an upgrade from what they were dealing with Josh McCown. And, McCown had his moments. He was able to give Enunwa and Robbie Anderson decent fantasy games, but I think Darnold's really going to take that to another level. And Quincy Enunwa, honestly, the Jets have a very, very underrated receiving core with those two. And there's a few younger guys like Ardarius Stewart who might even get in the mix, but the Jets wide receivers, I'm not against going after those guys.
You're probably a little more gung ho on that than I am. I don't like the Jets wide receiver options that whole lot. I mean, Robbie Anderson, if he does play 16 games, I'm totally on board. But that's probably the only one that I would.
See, I'd go with Noon. I might go with Noon over Anderson.
Oh, really?
I think Darnold being his first year, I don't think he's going to be.
Yeah, and it's going to look completely different with Darnold.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be the guy that, because Robbie Anderson's a stretch the field, go deep kind of guy, and I don't think Darnold is going to do that. I don't think they're going to let Darnold do that enough to where Anderson is above Enunwa for me. I think Enunwa was more the middle of the field.
Kind of a safer target.
Yeah, those just in routes, curl routes, slants, things like that. Just really, really quick, short things where Darnold doesn't have to make a lot of reads.
Yeah.
And Enunwa is very, very good at doing that.
Yep.
Sterling Shepard prime for a big year, according to Eli Manning. I mean, compared to last year, just the Giants in general are probably prime for a big year.
Yeah.
Odell being back, Saquon Barkley being in the mix now. Sterling Shepard's a fantastic number 2 wide receiver. Honestly, might be one of the best number 2 wide receivers in the league.
Yeah, I really like where he's going in drafts. It's super late. I find he's on almost all of my rosters when I'm doing mock drafts. It's just where he is. I take him. I reach for him a little bit, not very much, and I think he's got propensity to provide real number 3 or wide receiver 3 value this year.
Yeah, there are a lot of fantasy or valuable fantasy assets on the Giants this year. Mm-hmm. Odell is going to be a top 10 pick. Saquon's going to be a top 10 pick. Sterling Shepard's going to be a decent, maybe even number 2 wide receiver. Definitely number 3.
So, by default, we think that Eli Manning is going to have a good year, right?
No, not necessarily. I still think
really?
he's going to throw a lot of picks.
Well, think about, Odell Beckham. Well, yeah, the pick thing, that has nothing to do. We got Odell Beckham. We just said that he's going to have a good year, obviously. Sterling Shepard, we think he's going to have a decent year. Evan Ingram, you can't throw him out the door. He's going to get his touchdowns.
I was just about to mention,
He's a yardage tight end now. Fantastic rookie year. So, by default, if all of those 3 guys are hitting, plus Saquon, he can catch the ball out of the backfield. If all 4 of those guys are hitting, Eli Manning has to be a valuable quarterback. Unless he just throws all kinds of picks.
Which I expect him to.
Unless he's just bad. I don't know.
I'll take him around where Blake Bortles is going, which is maybe 23, 24.
There's a lot of high expectations for all those guys on the Giants that I think Eli Manning's just either people aren't addressing, they don't want to admit that he's not bad anymore, but they're also seeing all this talent and saying, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is.
Yeah, and the fact that they have Saquon now and they're going to run the ball a lot more is...
That's true.
I don't think Eli is going to... maybe that'll be better for Eli in the fact that he doesn't have to sling it 40 times a game and throw all his picks.
And, people... defenses will have to address Saquon Barkley, I think. They're not going to be able to just, keep everyone dropping coverage.
Yeah, definitely. All right, bounce back players, meat and potatoes of the episode. These are basically guys that had poor seasons last year and we think are going to, for whatever reason, bounce back and have a good season in 2018. And again, not all these guys had bad seasons last year, especially a few of mine. I'm just saying they're going to bounce back in a major way. They're going to be top 10 guys potentially. And we're leaving off any player that was injured last year.
Yeah. So
significantly.
We're not going to say Odell Beckham.
No.
Obviously, he's going to perform better.
Yeah. Last year
he played 2 games.
We can make a whole separate list of just guys we got Odell, Deshaun Watson, Aaron Rodgers, just David on Johnson. And on and on.
Yeah.
So bounce back players for 2018. Go ahead and kick it off.
I'm going to kick it off with a running back that had a pretty eventful 2017. Jay Ajayi. Starting off as he had a lot of high hopes, or he was drafted pretty high coming into last year in fantasy with a lot of high expectations. But then in the early part of the season, he gets traded to the Eagles, where he becomes you think he comes into a pretty good spot, which he's on the best team. They're Super Bowl winners.
I didn't think so.
Well, no, I know you particularly didn't. And that was fine. I mean, it worked out because
Yeah.
there's just too many running backs down, and they didn't need a guy to just pound it in and pound it.
They already had LeGarrette Blount.
Yeah, they already had LeGarrette Blount to do that. They had Corey Clement to do kind of the third down, special work. But I think that Jay Ajayi, he's got the talent to be a number one running back on any team. But I think for the Eagles, I think they were starting to use him in ways last year that I like to see, and I think that having an entire offseason and the end of last season to work with the team and get accustomed, because he went through all kinds of distractions last year. And I mean, this is a guy in 2016. He had close to 1,300 yards and 8 touchdowns. I mean, he's a talented guy. The Eagles still do have Corey Clement, but they shipped out LeGarrette Blount, so that helps the situation a little bit more. And I still, as much as I like Jay Ajayi this year, I still think Corey Clement's going to take a step up this year as well. But I think that, just looking back at all the adversity that Jay Ajayi had to go through last year, and he was still able to perform in smaller ways, just not what you drafted him for. I think that it bodes well for the 2018 season.
Yeah, Jay Ajayi is one of those guys who it still scares me, like all of his injury history and basically people saying that he has the knees of a 50-year-old. But
so do I, though.
Well, yeah. But I think the situation's obviously good. Corey Clement being there, I think, is going to take a little bit away, but Ajayi should be the goal line back. Darren Sproles is returning for another year.
That's true.
So that might have a little bit, or take a little bit away from Ajayi, but still, I like Ajayi. I definitely think he's going to have a better year than last year. I don't think he's going to be what he was with the Dolphins. That 1 year where he's 200 yards back-to-back games.
Totally forgot. I mean, I guess we probably should say this. He finished as the 33rd running back last year.
Yeah.
That's kind of
I think he'll do better than that, obviously. Yeah. But still a little hesitant when drafting Jay Ajayi. It would have to be in a spot that's where it's clear, it's just obvious that I need to take him.
Yeah, I actually didn't check his ADP. I think it's moved around a little bit. But
yeah.
I'll have to check that.
All right, my first guy, I'm going Demaryius Thomas. Demaryius Thomas, a guy who's always been super consistent, even though people seem to, just some games he just lets people down in a big way. And I get that, but Demaryius Thomas last year, 949 yards in last season, which that was the first time under 1,000, I think, in the past 6 years. So, he's pretty much a lock for 1,000 yards.
At least.
And 5-6 touchdowns. And now you have Case Keenum, the first decent quarterback that Demaryius is going to have in the past 4 years.
In quite some time.
So I think Demaryius...
This is Peyton Manning.
Peyton Manning's final year was absolutely garbage, even though they won a Super Bowl. But yeah, Demaryius, I think he's going to have a very, very good 2018. Honestly, I don't see with Case Keenum, I don't see why Demaryius can't put up 1,200 yards and 8 touchdowns. That's good enough. I think that'll be definitely top 15 range.
Yeah.
When it comes to wide receivers. So yeah, Demaryius Thomas. All on board for 2018. Yeah,
there's a couple of things I really like about Demaryius. One, you mentioned he's had just a carousel of garbage quarterbacks. Since 2015, his touchdown numbers have stayed around 6 and 5. But before that, they were 8, 11, 14, really high. So he's going to have a better quarterback. But the thing I love most about Demaryius Thomas is he's so reliable. Since 2013, he's played 16 games every single year. And that's what you really want whenever you're, investing.
That can't be mentioned enough.
No. That's crazy. And that's one of the knocks against his teammate, Emmanuel Sanders, is he can't stay healthy. Which I still like Emmanuel Sanders going into this year as well. But I think if I had to choose between the two, I'm definitely leaning Demaryius Thomas, especially with the injury history.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to switch gears and go to a quarterback that I think far underperformed last year in terms of fantasy value. Matt Ryan, the quarterback of the Atlanta Falcons. Before I forget, I'll pull up his where he finished. But in a lot of these situations, I look at who just performed just below their own personal mean, and nothing really changed about their situation, or it even got better going into this year. And those, to me, are the most likely bounce back candidates. The ones that have a history of performing well and just had a down year, and nothing they didn't lose a bunch of key players. They didn't lose the whole offensive line didn't retire it seems like the Browns' offensive line is doing. Last year he finished as the quarterback 15. He had his lowest attempts since his rookie season, which was 2008. In the seasons that he played, all 16 games. He had his lowest touchdown since his rookie season at 20, which is very below average for him, way below average. And he also had the lowest yards since 2010. So all of those stats, that's just it's so not like Matt Ryan. And, last year they were kind of struggling to find their offensive identity. There was just a lot of talk about, Julio Jones just is not catching touchdowns like he should and all this other stuff. And so Julio Jones is still there. They still have their really good running back tandem. The offensive line is still strong and healthy. They signed a good rookie wide receiver in Calvin Ridley. So all the signs point up, and I'm perfectly willing to say that 2017 was just an anomaly for Matt Ryan, and I think that he's going to finish much better than quarterback 15 this coming year.
So, 15 was last year.
Yeah.
The year before that, he was what number was he? Wasn't one? No, I think it was 3.
It was it was top 3.
Do you think
I think it was probably 3?
Do you think he gets back in the top 5 range?
I think he could breach the top 5. When I stat out the other quarterbacks that I think I've got several quarterbacks still in front of him, but I think somewhere around 5 is more than reasonable based on what I think that team is going to do next year.
Yeah, I just can't see myself drafting Matt Ryan even in the top 10 quarterbacks right now. I mean,
just based on ADP, you can get him for free.
I like Matt Ryan, and I love the weapons around him. Yeah. It's just ever since Kyle Shanahan left that offense, it's just a little bit scary seeing how they've developed. And hopefully things will get better this year, but and they certainly will. But I don't know how much better.
Yeah.
All right, my next guy, Randall Cobb, and just caveat, all my guys I have one running back. Sorry, I added him late.
Oh.
But Randall Cobb, number 6 wide receiver in 2014. It's been downhill ever since.
I was about to say that's a while ago.
Yeah, I get it, but I'm just saying I'm bringing that up because he can do it. We've seen him do it in the past. We've seen him a guy score 12 touchdowns in a season. We've seen him over 1,200 yards.
And he's on the same team, has the same quarterback.
Exactly. And Jordy's gone, so targets have vacated. Randall Cobb has always been one of Aaron's favorite guys to go to because he's so reliable. He does not drop balls. He just does not drop them. And
it's true.
He's been injured here and there. He's had some just for whatever reason, Randall Cobb just hasn't got back to that 2014 form. I think this is the time it happens. This is the time the Packers need it to happen. And he's going to have to step up in a big way. And I really, really, truly believe that Randall Cobb can get back to that, maybe even a top 20 wide receiver. I'm not saying he's going to jump into the top 10 and be, again, like I said, number 6 wide receiver. Because I have a lot of faith in Devontae Adams. Jimmy Graham's going to get some targets. I don't think it's going to be that great. The Jimmy Graham or Aaron Rodgers to Jimmy Graham connection. But Randall Cobb, he's got that rapport. He's been there the longest. He's the most veteran wide receiver, actually offensive weapon, other than Aaron Rodgers on that team. So they've been together, and I truly believe they're going to bounce back together.
Yeah, I believe that. On Jimmy Graham, do you think Jimmy Graham's going to lean more towards being yardage heavy or touchdown heavy?
Okay, without a doubt. Without a doubt.
That's what I think, just based on how I think that they're going to use him. But just curious. I'm going to stay on the wide receiver train and talk about a guy that is very controversial, Amari Cooper. People are all over the spectrum with Amari Cooper. And last year was a disappointment, to say the least. I'm not even going to tell you where he finished because it's just embarrassing.
I feel, just say that Jared Cook was had the highest receiving total on that team last year. That's all
Yeah.
you need to say. But no, with Amari Cooper, it's like either people are still. It's got to the point where people are just like, yeah, this is a year, like they've always been saying, or it's,
And that's how I feel like this conversation is going to go. But I'm not. I don't know.
yeah, well, it's either that or the people that have just completely given up and said, I'm done with Amari Cooper. I'm not drafting him anymore.
Yeah, and I would say that it's not going to be that kind of an argument because I'm more in the middle. Do I think he's going to finish in the top 10 wide receivers? No. Do I think that he's going to do much better than last year? Yes. Last year he had a 50% catch percentage, which is astronomically low. I mean, we're talking like Zay Jones low. I mean, it was just putrid.
Zay Jones.
I mean, it was awful, and he had 96 targets, which isn't a low amount. It's lower than he has had, but I mean, when you're only catching 50%, what's the incentive to really throw it to? But he's had 2 over 1,000-yard seasons. Touchdowns are just kind of low, just because that's not really how the Raiders have really operated in the past, as far as they throw a whole lot of touchdowns, and apparently they just all go to Jared Cook. But I think that while I don't have a whole lot of faith in the team of Oakland this year, I'm not sold on all of the things that they've done in the offseason. I'm not sold on the coaching decisions that they've made. You have to address that Michael Crabtree's gone. 101 targets are gone. And I think that Amari Cooper is going to get the first shot at being the true number one wide receiver. They brought in Jordy Nelson. He's going to get his share. But I think that Amari is going to get the majority of the target share, and I just think that you can't sustain a 50% catch percentage. I mean, that's so low for a wide receiver.
And for a good wide receiver,
it is, and that's the thing is, I still think he's good. And he's only 24. I mean, he's still very young. I mean, it's not like if he doesn't perform this year, then he's just out. Yeah, I mean, more people will say that if he does this 2 years in a row, but I don't see it. I think that he's going to improve. Not going to be a top 10 wide receiver, but for a late round guy, I think that you can do a whole lot worse than take a risk on Amari Cooper.
Yeah, and definitely with John Gruden stepping into the coaching role,
it's going to be different. And I think John Gruden does like to run the ball, but I think that he's going to. I think the reports have said that he's really on board with Amari Cooper and believes in him.
Yeah. All right, my next guy, T.Y. Hilton. T.Y. Hilton last year was a bit of a disappointment. Honestly, I mean, it was okay just because...
It wasn't awful.
No, it wasn't bad.
People thought he was just garbage. But...
I mean, there were some weeks where it was like just zero points, just putting up goose eggs. But without Andrew Luck, I mean, even last year, almost 1,000 yards without him. So with Andrew Luck coming back, I think I have no reason to doubt why T.Y. Hilton wouldn't go back to his 2016 numbers, 1,448 yards. I mean, that's a huge number. That's a career year for a lot of people. Yeah. But honestly, if Luck is healthy, I don't see why he can't do it. Right. T.Y. Hilton's a super talented wide receiver. He's always been Andrew Luck's go-to guy. Maybe even more so in the red zone now because Dante Moncrief is gone. I still like the tight ends there as options, but T.Y. Hilton, I think, I'm praying that Luck is healthy, and if so, T.Y. Hilton is definitely going to have a bounce back year.
Yeah, and absolutely. And in his whole career, he has missed one game. So can't overstate that enough. Like whenever you draft him, you're not injury prone until you get injured. I know that. But at least you have a track record of staying on the field no matter what the Colts are doing. No matter who the quarterback is, no matter what garbage they're rolling out there, he's consistent. And yeah, it was a down year for him, but I think that especially if Andrew Luck's firing on all cylinders, there's no reason why T.Y. Hilton can't return to what he was before that.
Absolutely.
My last one, we're going to go away from the wide receiver finally, and we're going to go back to running back. And this was interesting. I didn't really want to bring up the two guys from the same team twice, but I went with Devonta Freeman. Now, he only played 14 games. I know we made the disclaimer at the beginning that we wanted to throw out the guys that had...
but we were talking about significant time half the season.
I thought 14 games was enough to say to make the list. So he had 7 touchdowns in his 14 games, which is low for Devonta Freeman. That's kind of abnormal. That's going back to, the whole Falcons offense just wasn't clicking the whole year. They still ended up making a decent season, especially towards the end. They made a huge run, and it was pretty incredible to watch. But overall, it was just a down year. He had less than 1,000 yards, 865, which is not like him at all. And I think he. Oh, also before I forget, he finished as a running back 13. So while I don't think that he's going to reach like the top 3 or anything like that, I think that 13 is just it's low. I think he's a top 10 running back in my mind. And a lot of the same points I made about Matt Ryan apply to Devonta Freeman, as in the situation hasn't gotten worse. They've added the weapons that they needed. They're coming off a year of really trying to find their identity, and I think that it's going to be more solid this next year. And for me, it was just it wasn't a typical Devonta Freeman year, but I don't see that there's any reason why he can't return to what he was doing prior to that season. I don't see any reason that he's slowed down. I don't think the injury thing's a big deal.
No,
I'm not worried about that. That was just a little thing.
I think it was just the Falcons coming off that Super Bowl hangover. Like everyone said, Kyle Shanahan was gone. They were just trying to find themselves again, and Devonta Freeman just kind of it was just a slow developing year for the entire team.
Right. Yeah, and like we said, I made a lot of the same points, but it's. Especially the 7 touchdowns. In 2015, 2016, both of those seasons. He had over 1,000 yards and 11 touchdowns. I mean, he's a solid running back, and he deserves to be in the top 10. And I just think that the whole team's going to be better, and that's going to bode well for Devonta Freeman. Yeah.
All right, last guy, my only non-wide receiver.
I'm excited.
Lamar Miller.
Oh, okay.
Lamar Miller. People say he had a down year. People say he's had 2 back-to-back poor years.
Dude, people are so down on Lamar Miller.
And I can see it. He disappoints here and there. I still think I really, really like what I see out of Lamar Miller. I think he's got incredible vision. Mm-hmm. I think he can do everything you want a running back to do when it comes to being a 3-down back. He can catch the ball. He can run between the tackles, everything. And then he started to put together a pretty good year last year until Deshaun Watson gets hurt.
Yeah.
And
which just changed the whole dynamic of that team besides DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah. But Lamar Miller, with the Deshaun Watson being back, and hopefully he's back for good, Lamar Miller, I think, is going to absolutely have a fantastic fantasy year. I think he's being drafted way too low at the moment. I am perfectly fine having him as my number 2 guy. But I know people are saying he's had bad years, but looking back the past 4 years, last year running back 14, not bad at all.
Yeah.
Before that, running back 18. It was his first year with the Texans. Didn't have Deshaun Watson. Still a decent year. Year before that, running back 6, and then the year before that, running back 9. Those last 2 years were with the Dolphins, obviously.
Right.
But I think Lamar Miller can really, really, really bounce back and be even a top 10 guy, in my opinion. Yeah. Deshaun Watson, just with him at the helm, it's just the opportunities and just everything that can happen with Lamar Miller. I think it's all going to be positive.
Yeah, I think so too. And Deshaun Watson being a quarterback that he has the threat of rushing, that always helps the running backs. And so if we get a full 16 games out of him, I think Lamar Miller's locked and loaded. I just don't get people that just don't. They just dismiss Lamar. I've heard people say that they don't expect him to be the starting running back by week 3. I
am a little scared of what D'Onta Foreman can do because I think he's really talented. I don't even know.
I think he is. Yeah, I think he is too.
But Lamar Miller, I still think when he left the Dolphins and was going to the Texans, I was like, this is a guy I think he has vision. Obviously Le'Veon Bell is the vision master. But I think Lamar Miller is pretty damn close to what Le'Veon Bell can do in terms of seeing the field and being able to make certain cuts.
Yeah,
it's just
and it helps that he can also catch the ball. I mean, last year he had 3 receiving touchdowns as well.
Yeah.
And close to 350 receiving yards, which is good. And that's something I haven't really seen Deontay Foreman be proficient at. The times that he has played, that he's been on the field, that's not really the role that they have him in. So I think that with a combination of Lamar Miller, just I think being a solid running back and the fact that he can catch the ball at the backfield, I think that his role is pretty solidified, a lot more than people give him credit for.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so yeah, those were our bounce back players. We'll go back through them one more time. I had Randall Cobb, T.Y. Hilton, Demaryius Thomas, and Lamar Miller. And then Brett had
Jay Ajayi, Matt Ryan, Amari Cooper, and Devontae Freeman.
All right, so obviously they're not locks to perform as well as we think they're going to do, but
I think they have pretty good odds. I didn't hate any of the picks. A lot of your picks, like Randall Cobb especially, like I knew you would pick him. So whenever I was preparing, so I was like, I'm not even going to touch it.
Yeah, Amari is the one. I had him written down too.
And we talked about T.Y. Hilton because I was kind of back and forth on that because I was like, I don't want the whole conversation to turn into whether or not Andrew Luck's going to be back.
Yeah.
But I'm totally on board with T.Y. Hilton as well.
Yeah, definitely. And, I mean, there's plenty of guys that we could have listed outside of some of these others. Like, going through here, like, talking about Demaryius Thomas and then talking about Emmanuel Sanders. I think Emmanuel's going to have a bounce-back year.
Yeah.
Talking about Amari Cooper, Jordy Nelson is bound to have a better year than he did last year.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Definitely not. But he's not bouncing back to what
number.
He's not going to be number 1 wide receiver in fantasy.
Yeah.
But
he'll give you more value than he did last year, though.
Yeah, definitely some bounce-back guys. All right, so that's going to be all for today. It was a little bit of a shorter episode than what we have done, but I don't know at what point, because honestly, I think we're, 3 weeks away from the Hall of Fame game, so we're creeping up on football pretty fast.
Yeah, it's almost August, I guess.
Yeah, spring training camp starts in like a week, I believe. Mm-hmm. So
It'll be interesting to see all the reports and what everyone's thinking about training camp.
Yeah, definitely. So at some point, I have no clue how it's going to work. It might not. We might just have to deal with it. But I want to do more than one episode a week at some point.
Oh, yeah, especially when the NFL season ramps up.
Yeah, once the season starts, without a doubt.
Yeah.
I want to do it before preseason starts. I don't know if that's going to happen because, again, working baseball, the season doesn't even end until August, or actually the end of August, so September. And if we make the playoffs, it'll be end of September. So
Playoffs?
Talking about playoffs? Hey, if we keep playing like we are, it's not going to be. We're not going to talk about playoffs. But I really, really, really like doing this, and I really like making episodes, and I want to do as many as I can. Obviously, we had even last week. You guys saw we had to do back-to-back episodes too.
Yeah, and we'll probably at least do that, especially when the season starts. I mean, we can record, our typical fantasy episode, and then we can right after that record our league episode that we typically did on Fridays last week.
Yeah, definitely. But again, it's just however the schedule's going to work. We're going to try to do as best we can. We will definitely, without question, at least have one episode a week. So don't worry about that. We're still going to be here. We're still going to be on Twitter doing all that mess and all that jazz, social media. And
it's called Social Meds.
Social Meds, sorry, bro.
Oh, you're like 47 years old.
Social media, what's that? But speaking of, I finally put the poll of our 2 mock draft teams.
Who won?
You don't want to know.
Oh,
there were only, I think there were like 10 votes, so not many, but I won 100% to 0.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well,
they didn't like the team. They didn't like their 0 running backs.
They didn't like the 0 running backs, and I understand that. Like, if honestly, just looking at both of those teams, I probably would have picked your team anyway, just because I don't really like the 0 running back strategy either. So that doesn't surprise me. But
people saw my running backs and was just like, "Whew, Lev Bell, Derrick Henry, my word."
I mean, I don't blame them. That's pretty good.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, that's going to be all for today. We will be back next week. I don't believe we have a game Sunday, so we'll be able to record and actually put one out as usual next week. But make sure you keep following us, listening. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at the 423football. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and YouTube. Give us a like. Leave your comments and reviews. Share us with the world. Thanks for listening. We are the 423 Football Podcast.